You know what's really unfortunate, Will, is that I have books in different places, and your cabin book is not in the location that I am currently in. So I can't unfortunately hold it up. So we're gonna have to put up pictures during the video on YouTube. I'll take some photos of the book.
I just had to do that. Look, there we go.
There you go. Oh, that's a different cover than what I have.
Yeah, you've got that one, haven't you?
I've got that one. Yes,
That's the hardback. That's the paperback.
I have the hardback. Yes,
Which is, I totally agree with you. The design on that is phenomenal on the hardback one.
Yeah, it's simplistic, minimalistic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guest today is Will Jones. Before we started recording, I was explaining to Aaron, I just finished reading Will's book. Will is a writer, a carpenter as well, tons of building experience. I'm going to let you tell your story, but as the host, I'll give you a brief introduction. I finished reading Will's book called Cabin. You want to hold that up, Will? Again? Which is a beautiful story of Will's journey from England to Canada and building a humble piece of, or purchasing a humble piece of property by a river and building a nice cabin by it, as the book alludes to, being surrounded by beautiful wilderness. And it just really spoke my language. And though Will is not a photographer, videographer in the classic sense, he is an artist that writes to express himself artistically. And before we pressed record, I made note that something of that trade requires a lot of deep focus. To be able to publish books, to be able to write books, to be able to write anything requires deep focus and intent. And I thought that could be a big theme of today's episode. So we'll get into that. But first, Will, welcome to the show. Tell us your story from across the pond to here and about your book that captivated me.
I came to Canada about 15 years ago. We actually came on holiday here 20-something years ago and thought the place was amazing. Realized that what we could have in Canada with regards to a home and a space in the wilderness was far more than we could ever imagine in England. And so put in our immigration papers, and a quick 4 years later, we got our visas, and we came over. I'm a carpenter by trade initially, but I'd been writing a lot in England, so I came over thinking I could be able to write freelance architectural stuff for magazines and books from my office here in Halliburton. I very quickly realized that you do need to be in London, New York, Sydney, Tokyo to do that kind of thing easily. And so I fell back into my carpentry ways. I got a job and was building cottages. Mm-hmm. But all the while, I'm thinking I want to build something for myself. And it's not as if I could build, I haven't got the money to be able to build one of these fabulous houses that I do when I'm at work. So it's like, well, what can I build? What can I find? Maybe I can build a cabin. Maybe I can build my own little sanctuary in the wilderness. And so the cabin came about because I managed to buy a small piece of property, just 3 acres, by a river, which is my idea of paradise. And then I thought I just want something really, really simple, really small, to be able to go there and spend time there. And so when I say cabin, I think the word cabin is often used to describe what we would call here in Halliburton a cottage, or mm-hmm. something where people can stay for a week. It's got all the modern amenities, that kind of thing. My cabin it's a 10 by 10. It's a sleeping cabin. It's got a deck out the front overlooking a river, and it's got some hydro. That's about it. If I want to wash, I get water from the river. If I want to cook, I have a barbecue or a fire. It's the simplest, smallest thing you can possibly imagine. But in doing that, it's like, well, do I just want to build a square box, or do I want to build something that's a little bit different? So my past as an architectural writer, you've got all kinds of ideas. You're obviously meeting all kinds of creatives every day, and you think, well, I can put a little bit of something into that. So the cabin is designed a little bit differently. There's a sloping wall, there's a curved roof. It's just just something to make it fun and quirky, in addition to being this fabulous place to spend time with by the river.
Yeah, and we'll throw some photos up if you're willing to share some.
Yeah.
Just for context of what people can say. Obviously, they're in the book. I was laughing at you mentioned it in the book, you're not laughing in the sense of at you, but just laughing at the sense of you needed to have this quirky curved roof just to make it your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is awesome. But where do you think that desire as artists to just like, this needs to be my own? Like, it has to have this unique part of it that makes it distinguishable. What is that for you? Why do you think that's important?
I mean, I think maybe I needing to have the quirky roof to make it my own. That's something that sounds like a guy that's written a book about it. It's something that it just comes about, and it's not something you set out to do, but it's something that happens because you're trying to be creative.
Right.
And I can build a square box, but and I could make it very minimal. I could make it very beautiful, but there's an innate desire to put something into it that makes it different, put some heart into it somehow, and that's how the little aspects come about. I think it's from your heart rather than from a mindset or planning, really.
Yeah, and this interview is already going exactly the way I want it to go, because people listening can obviously make the connections between what you've just said and any art form. Obviously, specifically this show is photographers and videographers. But what you just said absolutely applies. I could make it look pretty with a very basic approach, but I want to push for more. I love that. And I think that's something that we all need to hear regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we see it enough. Today's world is very fast. Things are being produced as quickly and as cheaply as possible, churned out, thrown away, something else again. And if you get the chance to build a cabin, to write a book, to take beautiful photographs, it's something that I feel you have to make it more than just the minimum, because
It's like a duty as an artist almost, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And I should say, you guys that are photographers, your work blows me away. I would not call myself an artist at all. I'm a carpenter that happens to be able to write a book. Now, it's a different. Your creativity is very different to mine. Mine is more. I mean, writing a book is creative, but it's also it's a long process that at times you're just thinking, why the hell am I doing this? You pitch an idea to a publisher, they love the idea, you're all happy, then you realize there's 2 years of work ahead of you, and a lot of it is pretty tedious. But at the end, you get this beautiful book, and you realize why you've done it again.
Are you even an artist if you're not saying, why the hell am I doing this at some point?
Yeah, exactly. I guess so. Yeah. Artists don't do it for the money.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would say there's a chance to be artistic for anyone throughout the flow of their daily life, from the choices you make to, I don't know, even just when I was reading your book, learning about how to make a square from 2x4s. That's creative as hell. I love that. Being able to look at a piece at a collective pile of resources or wood, of building materials, and figure out, this is what I can make with this. Tremendously artistic. So don't sell yourself short. So to the second part of what you said, when you're beyond that honeymoon phase of the idea, I've got a great idea, I'm excited, I've pitched to a publisher, other people are excited about it. For photographers listening, that could be a client you've pitched somebody on an expedition you want to run. And then you get into the nitty gritty where it is tough. You're in year 1 or year 1.5 of a 3-year project, and you're going, oh, why did I do this? What's your anchor to continue? I mean, you can be specific to you or just touch on general points of what makes you continue.
If I was to be brutally honest, it's because I've signed a contract and I have to give the money back if I don't come up with the goods. But
That's part of it.
it is always part of it. I mean, it in essence, it's because I've come up with this idea, because I know the idea is a good one, and then to have people, to have the publisher, to have friends, anybody you talk to say, "Wow, yeah, that sounds really cool." It gives you the will to go on. You feel like you've got something that's worth creating. And if maybe, I mean, I've had publishing projects that that have changed as I've pitched a project and the publisher has taken it on, and then it's changed as I'm writing it, because you realize that you can't go down one path. You've got to pivot in order to be able to make it a success. But
Right.
all the while, you are knowing that in your heart you've got something, and there's the seed of a really, really good idea, and that's what the drive is, really, to grow that seed to full maturity.
Right. I have thousands of questions, but Aaron, I'm going to leave you space should you have any right now.
Yeah, the one thing so far that I think struck me is the acknowledgement of time when you're in that place and in that space of your cabin, and boiling water if you have to cook, if you need to shower, it's such a simple way of life. And I'm curious, I feel like we're so removed from that. If you could describe maybe the first couple weeks of coming from hustle and bustle to that, and the sort of acclimation period to this new way of life. I always think that's interesting. And yeah, I give you the floor. But yeah.
I mean, I guess my life has been working towards this cabin and being able to spend time there. I come from a small village in England. I moved to London and spent many years in London. And a friend in London said, when I first moved there, he said, you'll love it and you'll never leave. You'll hate it and you'll leave within a month, or you'll get to a 10-year mark and you'll get tired of it and you'll need to leave. And I got to that 10-year mark and needed to get out. I needed something. My life needed something quieter, more reflective, to be able to really think about where I was, what I was doing, and my creativity. I found that in London I was being bombarded by media all the time, and other people's thoughts, other people's ideas, and most of that is it's the political bullshit that you hear on the news all the time, that kind of thing. And I just thought, I don't need that anymore. So when we came to Canada on holiday, we realized there's this big, wide, open country. It's so beautiful. It's so easy to get access to what I call wilderness. I mean, walking out 10 minutes out of my door, you're in a forest, you're by a lake, you're by a river. It gives you, it allows you to relax. Mm-hmm. And so moving from London, I'd already gone a long way from that hustle and bustle, from that sort of mindset of fast, to move to Halliburton. We moved straight to Halliburton from London. We didn't come to Toronto first or anything like that.
Good idea.
So we got here, and it was just this sort of like, oh, yes, it was calm. I completely shut up. I didn't bother reading newspapers, listen to the radio, that kind of thing, for about a year. It was nice just to be here and to breathe. And then I'm here, I'm really enjoying the place. But you get back into daily life, and you get back into, I got to go to work, I got to earn money, I've got a mortgage, I've got a wife and a child. And so, daily life just catches up with you again. So the cabin, and being able to go to build that cabin, I mean, just building the cabin was an amazing feeling, because you're out there, it's virgin land, you're looking at this river, I'm thinking, well, okay, where do I put a cabin? I mean, it was right from the outset. It's just sort of like, well, what's the best position? What's the best orientation? Everything try and build something that is going to be really tranquil, really relaxing. So even the construction of it made me feel good. And then when the cabin is built, then you start to really be able to sit back, take time, and relax in nature. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's lots of things like forest bathing, that kind of thing now that people are selling. And there's a lot to be said for being able to be out in nature for health benefits and that kind of thing. And when you're a creative, you really need that kind of space to be able to open your mind and be able to relax and really, really think about things rather than being inundated by other people's thoughts all the time.
Yeah, amen. I think it is so important to carve out times for you to be alone with your own thoughts, to let problems work themselves out, to let ideas come naturally without external stimuli. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I do think it's very important for everyone to try and give themselves the opportunity to build something with their hands infrequently throughout their life. I think there is something extremely satisfying about even building a bonfire, or, building a shed for your wood, just small little projects. There's a different sense of accomplishment and purpose that comes with building something with your own two hands, whether it's by yourself or with a group of people, than there is building something in cyberspace, than there is digitally. I can't really describe it, but I do both of these two things, and I can feel the difference between the two. Not that one is inherently better than the other, but they tick different boxes for me. And I think naturally when you build things with your hands, even if it's small scale projects, it forces you to step away from the potential noise of that digital realm. You have to be focused on, okay, what was my measurement on the tape measure again? Ask my dad how many times him and I have messed up. Oh, I was half an inch short. Cut a new piece. All the time. But I highly encourage people to build things with their hands and give themselves that opportunity because it's very rewarding.
I wrote a book a few years ago. It's called The Architect's Sketchbook. And in it, I interviewed architects, and so many of them talked about their creative process. And it was, I'm going to say 80% of these architects, it was about using, it was sketching. It was using a pencil, using a pen to sketch and to think up a design and work out a design on paper, because the act of drawing on paper gave them the time. It's like that. There's no disconnect between hand and brain. Whereas if they're trying to do it on a computer, they're trying to do it digitally, they really, really struggled. I mean, obviously everything went digital afterwards, but the initial design, the initial creation was nearly always done by hand. And I totally agree. I mean, my work, I love what I do as a carpenter, and it's because you can be creative and you can see what you're building and you can feel it. It's tactile, and just that act of having the wood in your hands, creating, whether you're trimming a house out or you're building. I mean, just recently we built some beautiful tree houses for a client. I mean, they're $1 million tree houses.
Are these the ones that are on the metal columns and they're tucked right against the trees? They're built like almost touching the trees. I've seen these. I picked up a magazine and I saw on your page that the exact same house. I was like, oh, you worked on that house. Okay, cool. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's called the tree house, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's called the tree house, or they have like a cool name for it.
Well, the company is called Fort Treehouse Company.
Fort Treehouse Company. That's it.
And the resort we've just built is called Heartwood, and they are 600 square foot modern, beautiful living spaces that are actually, I mean, one end of them is supported in the trees and the other end is supported on steel columns. I mean, these things are phenomenal, and it's a privilege to be able to work on them. I can use my creativity in the actual construction of them, but then to be able to work with an architect and with a client that have got the vision to be able to come up with these things. It's just a privilege to be able to build them. So it's, I mean, if you want to talk about creatives, that's the creative process and different people down the line all coming together to build this amazing thing. And I really, really enjoy that kind of thing.
A question for you about this. Obviously, on projects such as getting a book published or building a resort, there's a financer, right? There's a person with the money funding the project along, right?
Yeah.
The question here is going to be, when you have a vision, maybe this more so pertains to a book idea, because obviously you're following building plans and architectural drawings pretty religiously. Like, you're not making impromptu changes on site.
Not
But
often.
no. So the question is, when you have a specific artistic vision, let's use the book example. Photographers, videographers listening can insert their own visual project. And you have somebody backing the project, like a publisher. How do you, when they have suggested changes that feels like it goes against your original vision or your art, how do you manage that, or those compromises and that relationship, when they're the ones who are the financiers? Does that question make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been very lucky with my publisher. It's Thames and Hudson in the UK. They give you a lot of creative latitude. And I haven't really had any trouble, and I've never had to fight for my creative vision. But there's always been a dialogue between us, and I think the key to it is finding somebody that believes in you enough to let you express your ideas, but then you've got to believe in them enough to be able to take on board criticism.
Sure.
And I mean, I'm a writer. So for instance, the design of cabin is done by a designer, and they send all the designs to me, all the illustrations come to me, and I think they think I'm great because I usually just go, yeah, this is fantastic. I'm not going to step on the illustrator's toes when they've
Right.
done, when they've created something of their own to put to this mutual project. I am not an illustrator. I am not an expert like that. The publisher is the expert, and they know what book will sell. And so if the sales team, I mean, often my projects will, you put forward an idea and they go, yeah, that's great, but it needs more international content because we want to sell the book around the world. And so you have to take that on board. I think if I was to fight too hard and say, well, no, I just want to write about my cabin and English cabins, for instance, the project wouldn't really work. You've got to be able to stand up for yourself, but you've also got to be able to take on board criticism and realize where you are in this. These books aren't a purely creative project. They are a project that is designed to sell. And if the book doesn't sell, it fails. So
so this is why you have, rather than just North American cabins in your book, you have the Scottish bothies and the Norgehitas and
exactly. I mean, that was it. They said we need something that's going to sell in Europe. So you can't just have North American cabins. I mean, one of the chapters in Cabin is all about the North American log cabin, but it's the archetypal log cabin. But even when you read that chapter, you realize that obviously the American log cabin came from the Finnish people that came across as immigrants, and that was their design, whereas the English guys that came across built stupid stick frame things that were cold, that fell apart. So they didn't survive. So it's good. I mean, I was encouraged to get more international content in the book, and it benefited the book.
Yeah, I guess all this to say, it's important to lean on the experts in their own domains. Like, Will, you have the idea, you are the writer, we give you control to do that best. This is the illustrator's role. We're going to trust them with their creative abilities in that domain. I love working for people like that, where they say, this is our vision. We're going to make sure you understand it, Seth, to the best of your ability. Go do what you do best. Obviously, we'll have feedback if there's glaring issues, but those are the kinds of people I want to work for, not the ones that micromanage creativity, because then you can run into this issue of, okay, who's the creator in this realm here? So listeners, avoid those scenarios if you can.
Yeah.
We'll suggest, despite how lucrative they may be, because they will cease to be lucrative due to increased frustration from either side. If you don't understand each other and you don't allow the different pieces of the puzzle to fit where they should.
I find that you've a publisher or a financier or a project lead that will give you latitude is phenomenal. I think the worst thing, there's going either way, either side of that is bad. If you've got somebody that doesn't want any input, they want to let you do your own thing entirely, then you can get lost in your own creativity and your own thoughts. Or somebody, as you mentioned, that micromanages, then you get annoyed and frustrated because they can't let you lead. So to have some boundaries is fabulous, but you've got to be able to fight and stand up for your creative belief at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning your story as we're unfolding this live time. I do have a maybe out of the box question. You mentioned you have a wife and a child as well, and I don't know how old your child is, but you left England with your family, and I assume that's not a light decision. I'm sure there's other family there, and you're kind of starting off on this new life. I'm curious the pull or the conversations back and forth and how one can easily say they're stuck and not necessarily break free from that, but it must have been a big decision. You're taking, I don't know how old your child was at the time, but whether school, friends, grandparents, any of that stuff, I'm curious of that decision and the combating of the potential of feeling stuck.
Well, my son was 8 months old when we moved, so
brand new.
He wasn't even a twinkle in my wife's eye, as they say, when we put in our immigration papers. So he was the easy part. Now, obviously, it did upset grandparents when we took. It was their first, my wife's mum and dad's first grandchild. So, yeah, they were a little bit upset when we left and took him with us. Mm-hmm. On my part, for my family, my dad had Parkinson's disease, and we didn't know this until we went back to my hometown and announced that we were going to move to Canada. And he said, "Okay, that's wonderful. Please go. You've got to go. But I need to tell you something." And told us he'd got Parkinson's, which just devastated me.
Yeah.
But he made it very, very clear that we should not put our lives on hold because of him. And so we came anyway. And it was hard at first. And it was hard for my mum because I'm her oldest son and we were leaving and we were going halfway across the world. But it's one of those decisions that my wife Stephanie and I, we'd been talking about and talking around moving for probably 10 years anyway. We'd always traveled as youngsters, and then we thought about going to France, which would have been easier apart from the language. We've got friends in South Africa, which is a beautiful, beautiful place. I travel there, I say as often as I can. It's probably once every 5 years, but we thought about moving out there, but you've got the political or the politics of South Africa. And then when we came to Canada, it was like, wow, we found a place that combines everything that we want. It's got the beautiful rural scenery that you could find the same in France, but it's the similar sort of out of the city escape that we wanted. and it's got the vastness of South Africa, and it's got, I mean, a language that we can actually understand, which is better than going to somewhere that you can't. But
we can get real Canadian though.
I'm getting there, so I understand about 50% of it now. But
yeah. I can interrupt you. There's this saying up around where we're at, Will, with the trades. You don't know no one who don't need nothing done now, do ya? You heard that one? You don't know no one who don't need nothing done now, do you? In other words, you don't need it. You don't know anyone who has any work for me, do you?
I think I'd probably just say A to that.
Hey, there you go. Right on, man.
Well, Will, thanks for sharing. And
just checking my camera, guys.
My dad too has Parkinson's, and that was announced right before my son was born. So kind of a similar timeline. My son's 10 now, and he's still doing okay. But I know that battle and how tough it can be for, my mom, your mom, and that must have been tough to have to make that decision. Despite following your soul and your heart and what you knew you had to do. That's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I think if it had been left to me, if my dad had said it's your decision, do what you want, I probably wouldn't have gone. I would have waited, and and you mentioned 10 years. I mean, it was another 10 years before he died. Mm-hmm. And then the moment would have passed, and I would have never moved from England. But he was so adamant that we should go because he knew where our dreams lay, and he knew how wonderful it would be for us. And he came twice. He visited twice, and one of his some of his favorite things to do would be to read cowboy novels and watch John Wayne and Clint Eastwood on the TV and the films. And so I got my hunting license or my firearms license, and we brought him over here, and we got him firing a lever action rifle at targets, which is just what John Wayne did. And he was just so made up to be able to do that. So it's just the little things like that made me know what we'd done was right, and when my mum obviously visited with him, and she just came and she walked through Halliburton Village and said, "This is so wonderful." Canadians are wonderful people. They say that they will talk to you. They're happy. They are so open. And in a small village like Halliburton, you walk down the street and people just say, "Hi, hey, how's it going?" You don't know them. They're just there, and you reply. My mum couldn't believe that. She said, "This is like England in the 1950s. This is so wonderful. I really, really can understand why you love living here." So it was a difficult decision, but it was the right decision to make.
Yeah, and I can relate. 5 years in, my son was about 6. We had a road trip planned, a big road trip, and my dad had a major complication that involved surgery and a whole bunch of stuff. I was ready to cancel that trip, and he said, "Don't you dare! Like, go on the trip. There's nothing you can do. I'm in good hands with doctors, and your mom's here. Just go on that trip with your son." And again, the right decision, and came back to tell him all about it. So
yeah,
I feel you on a smaller scale, but I feel you.
What incredible gifts they both gave you.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome and touching. I want to go way back to the start of our episode. Actually, I don't know if I thought that we spoke about this, or if I'm just I'm assuming so because I've read it in your book, which was so recently. But throughout the cabin book, I loved the fact, or I loved how resourceful you were. You mentioned so many times, was working on this building, and these packages of insulation were going to go in the trash. So now they're magically in the back of my pickup truck. Or these pieces of wood, we're going to just go to the lumber yard. So I'm going to use them. I guess I want your take on the difference between feeling like you need resources and identifying as a resourceful person. These are two very distinct things and a concept that I think about a lot. I feel like there can be a tendency with anyone, not just creators, to feel like I need more resources, I need to know more people, or I need more chances, versus, you know what, I'm going to work extremely cleverly with what I have, which the latter being, or the former being a mindset of I need resources. In other words, a scarcity mindset often. And the latter being a resourceful mindset of I have many things that I can use here.
On the practical level, with regards to the cabin, it came down to cost, and it came down to how much money I could spend. I was trying to save as much money as I could to buy the things that would make the finishing touches. I mean, the pine, the raw edge pine that is on the outside of the cabin, I paid for that.
Right.
You know, I had to go to a mill and buy that, but I knew that I wanted to do that, and so I needed to save on the other aspects. And being in the construction industry, I can bring offcuts home from work. I can take the half bag of insulation. You know, it works like that. So that was on a practical level. I mean, but with regards to being resourceful versus needing resources, I mean, it's a bit like, with regards, again, going back to you've got a client that will give you everything, or you've got a client that micromanages. It's finding that element in the middle that when you realize that you are at your best. And I think a little bit of hardship, a little bit of having to scrabble for resources, a little bit of having to find the story, of having to, you know, truly understand a certain element in order to write about it. So you've got to do your background. You've got to do, you know, you've really got to focus. Then it makes everything better in the end. If I could have instantly at my disposal all the stories of all the cabin builders in the world, yes, I could write a book about it. But would the book be as good as one where I've had to search and find and go through and perhaps happen upon somebody that's less well known but has got a more interesting story? You know, it helps to be able to have to work for what you want to be able to put in the book, or to take a photo of, etc.
Yeah. I guess I bring this up too because I hear it a lot. Oh, I need this new camera to do X job. No, you don't.
No, you don't. At the end of the day, I mean, I'm sitting here in a rural part of Canada with shitty internet, with a 10-year-old computer, in an office that's got quite cold. Actually, I've just realised. But you know, it's just I don't need to be I don't need to have the biggest and best of everything in order to be able to write a book. Yeah. It comes down to what's in here, really, than more than all the stuff you can have around you to be able to work.
I'm glad that we did this recording today. If you're saying you're cold now, a week ago when the mercury was hitting minus 40, we may have needed to call someone to check on you.
maybe my wife's turned the thermostat down. I don't know, but she doesn't like my office. It's a scruffy room at the back of the garage. So it's my spot. So she keeps the heat on low, so I don't stay in here too often, I think.
That's fair. It just means she wants to spend time with you. Take it as a compliment. Your first minus 40 winter, were you like, why did I do this? Why did I move here?
Well, no, the stupid thing was we came here on holiday in the summer.
Okay.
We thought it was amazing. We came it was probably early September, which is probably the best time to come to rural Canada.
No bugs, still hot, good breeze.
Bugs have gone, that kind of thing. It's just right. We thought, wow, what an amazing place. We should come back in the winter because we've heard about these really cold winters. And now in England, you know, you say it's minus 10 and people can't believe that you're still alive in it.
T-shirt weather. Come on, let's go.
Exactly. So we came back in February of the next year, and it was, I remember getting up in the first morning and looking, we got into the car and turned the car, and it was minus 28, but the sky was just so bright blue. The sun was shining. There was snow everywhere. It was just so amazing. And we got the clothing on that you needed, but it's such a different cold to England that we were like, wow, this is phenomenal. And we did a week in February. We went skiing, we went dog sledding, we went everything. We did everything. We went ice fishing, that kind of thing. And I was hooked on winter. I just thought this is the most amazing thing ever.
Good for you. I call it the crunch cold. I call it the crunch cold because there's the distinct sound in this part of Canada when it's very cold beneath your feet. Depending on where you're listening, you may relate or you may have no idea what I'm talking about. But when you walk outside or you hear car tires driving through the snow, it's so cold that there's just this dense, very distinct crunching sound that you immediately associate with being chilled to the bone. Will knows what I'm talking about. He's laughing and smiling for those of you who are not on YouTube. Very good. And it's too bad we're not doing this in May because I would hold my arms up and you'd be able to see all the black fly bruises that I have. We're good.
But now I should sort of say that was February, a week holiday in many, many years ago now, and I was just hooked on winter. I've been here 15 years now, and if I could fly to Mexico for 3 months, 4 months every year, that's what I'd be doing. Because the winter is cold. We've worked this year. We've worked outside for the last 2.5 months on a project, and some days you just want to die when you look at the temperature in the truck as you're driving to work.
You know what, though, to be incredibly corny, when the first days of spring come and the thaw is on its way and you get that first warm day, it just hits so much different.
Oh, yeah.
If it was sunny all the time, it just wouldn't be as enjoyable. So it's the classic yin and yang, and how the counterpart to happiness in life is unfortunately suffering. I wasn't consulted at the design phase for whichever entity created all of this, but that's just the way it seems to work as a general concept.
Funny. Cool.
One thing I will add about your book too is I like I'll share this with listeners. Maybe they don't know this about me. When I read a book and I'm loving it, and the author references other pieces of literature or books in italics, I immediately put that onto my reading list.
Oh, I see.
So that I have this nice network web that builds off of what I'm already interested in. So often that's the case, right? People know you're reading. For those who read, it'll be like, as so-and-so said in X book, and I goes right on the reading list. So I want to thank you for Walden by Henry David Thoreau.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. That was a nice gift from you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting book. It's one of those things that it's the archetypal cabin building or the story of a cabin builder. And it's to read a classic like that and then be able to write something and reference it is a privilege.
Yeah.
So, and I'm writing another book. I should mention that at the moment. And it's called How to Survive in the Wilderness for a Weekend. And through that book, I am no expert of surviving in the wilderness at all, but I talked to 6 different experts, and one of them was I wanted somebody that was an expert in outdoors cooking, and I bumped into a guy. He's called Chris Nuttall Smith, and this is the book. This is his book, Cook It Wild, and you can see by all the tags in it.
Pause. Hold that up again. This is how books are meant to be read. Books are meant to have underlines in them, highlights, notes in the margins, sticky notes. I love that. Books are not meant to be kept pristine. They are tools as well that can be marked up. This is your permission, everyone, to do that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If anybody owns a copy of Cabin and the pages aren't turned and dog-eared, I'm going to be upset because that's what books are for.
I just send you a picture later. It's in absolute shambles. Well, Will, before we conclude this interview, if you wouldn't mind, I think I alluded to at the start that I think just we're in a time, there's no arguing it really from my perspective, where we are, when I say we, a large majority of our population is just living overstimulated, constantly distracted, unable to focus on tasks that are important, for whatever reason, whether it's your phone or the news, etc. To write a book, to write several books, to really build anything requires deep focus. How do you like to enter that space and keep it?
I don't know.
Okay,
Is
that's a
the
valid
honest answer. My books are, I mean, Cabin and the new book especially are being written in. I do think I like to do things in short, sharp sort of time periods, really. So when I'm writing, I'll write a chapter. So, and it'll take me, say, a week, but it'll be done not. It's not as if I sit down and write a chapter in one go. It'll be done over a period of days where I've probably spent 2 or 3 hours a day. I find that my focus, or my lack of focus, perhaps it's because of all the things that interrupt our lives, is down to about, I think, do 2 or 3 hours a time.
No kidding. That is exactly my project window. I've mentioned this on past podcast episodes. That's my sweet spot. 2 to 3 hours of deep work before I'm fried. Interesting.
Yeah. And you can't push it past that, because if you do, the work's not going to be as good. But you do need, in those 2 or 3 hours, you do need no interruptions. You need to be able to sit down and really, really concentrate. And that's what I found. When I was living in London, I couldn't do it. It was, I mean, I was in an apartment, and it's a nice spot, but there's always traffic noise. There's neighbors upstairs. There's just something that is always going on around you. Whereas here in Halliburton, this scruffy little office that I sit in, I mean, I'm looking out as the sky's going dark now, but I can see a skyline that's got a zigzag of pine and trees, just so that it's black against the grayness of the sky. I can see snow coming down. It's just, I'm looking out into the wilderness that I want to write about,
right,
and into the quiet and into nature, and it just gives me so much back, that wilderness, that nature. And I think that's part of what enables me to focus, what enables me to concentrate, is being in nature and being able to go out in it and just breathe it, rather than going out into the manic world that we all live in today.
Yeah, and just huffing diesel.
Exactly.
So obviously 2 to 3 hours for Will and I. It's going to be different for all you listening. I invite you to try and hone in on when your work quality begins to deteriorate, because that is an important distinction to be able to identify. So to build on that, and probably our last question of the day, how do you know when your work is deteriorating in quality and is not the best?
When I'm writing, it is, you struggle. You begin to when you are writing well, it flows. Mm-hmm. And even if when you go back and you reread it, you realize that it didn't make a lot of sense, at the time you're in the groove and it's flowing and the words are going down, well, not onto the paper, but you know what I'm saying. And it feels good. And I will happily do that, even if I jump from different topics. I mean, Cabin I've got different chapters on, there's different elements of the build of my cabin, and then there's the other chapters are, whether it's cabins around the world or North American cabins, where I would even jump between them, because I can feel that I know if I go to another chapter, I can still write, because I'm still in the mood, and it's still going to work. Whereas if I get to a stage where I'm going, oh, what am I going to write about now? What am I going to say next? How am I going to construct this sentence? And once I start to do that, then I realize that the creativity is dying for the moment, and I need to stop. I need to take a breather, or I need to put the whole thing down and go away and come back tomorrow.
Yeah, at that point, you don't have an output problem. You have an input problem. You need
Exactly.
input or rest or more inspiration or more nutrition, etc.
You just need you need to do something to be able to get back into the groove and
not be so stubborn and hard on yourself. Where I used to be this way. No, finish your books, get through it. No,
yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, you at some point you have got to push through, but when you're in the midst of the creative process, you can't, because maybe my latest book, I've just this last weekend, they wanted end matter and a big bibliography and a contents page. And that I just sat down and it was 6-7 hours and I just did it because it's not creative. It's just doing the dirge that at the end of the project that I know I've got to do. And I don't need to be creative in that. I just need to get some lists down and get it to the publisher. So sometimes you can push through, but when you're writing, like I say, when you're in a flow, it's fabulous, and you just think I've just written 6,000 words, and then you read them back, and you go, okay, the 2,000 of them were complete bullshit.
It happens to us all the time. What was this edit I did last night?
Exactly.
Why is this so green?
Yeah. But you've got 4,000 words, and they're good, and you can mold them into something. So that's when you're being creative. I think when you're just letting go and going with the flow.
That's a mic drop moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Will Jones, author of Cabin, which I highly recommend you pick up. We'll put a link to Will's work that we've referenced in the episode description. You'll tell us when we get off where we can direct people to that, Will, but it will be in the episode description, I promise you. And Will, thank you so much for offering your time today. Very generous of you. And I've said it a bunch, but I genuinely enjoyed reading your book. It was awesome and made me want to reach out to you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for buying the book, and thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
You know what? It was actually, I'll tell you one last story about it. My girlfriend and I, Haley, every Christmas Eve, we have a tradition of going into a bookstore. It's our new tradition. We go into a physical bookstore, and Cabin caught my eye. And I said, oh, this is so cool. And I didn't buy it at the time. I don't think it was, I can't remember why. I think usually because I asked for gifts. I ask for books as gifts. And so it's easy for people, so I don't want to buy them myself. So needless to say, it was gifted to me by her. So thank you, Haley.
She's got wonderful taste.
She does. You know how much I liked it, and it was a great gift. That's all I'll say. Thanks, guys. Till next time.
Awesome.
Fabulous. Thank you.